everyone, in today's video I'm going to be showing you a set of nails that I wore on myself that are encapsulated flowers. And I feel like encapsulated flowers had their moment a while ago and I never really embraced them as much as I maybe should have. So I decided, I'm going to do one on myself again. I really love the look of encapsulated flowers and I feel like they can add that element of like extra depth and three-dimensional things without adding that texture. And some people really don't like the texture of having 3D on their nails. So this is a really great thing to practice up on and offer to clients. It's a great upsell. Plus, they do look incredible. So I'll go through a bunch of tips and tricks on encapsulating flowers in this video. I hope you like it, and don't forget to click subscribe to see all my future videos as well.
So I decided to change my nail shape, so I'm going to begin. I have my form and I'm going to sculpt out the free edge of my nail with clear acrylic over the top of the form. I am kind of going for a wannabe Russian almond type of a shape, so I'm going to drop down the sidewalls a little bit farther than I normally would for my standard almond that I typically wear, and I'm going to just swipe them up in a rounded fashion towards the tip. After I have that free edge sculpted, I am going to take a very thin bead of acrylic and I'm going to apply that over the course of the rest of my nail. And now I'm going to do my middle nail, which is going to be the one that has that encapsulated flower. Over just kind of the cuticle area, I'm going to brush on a very, very thin layer of a gold pink sparkly acrylic. And now using some white acrylic, I'm going to sculpt all of the petals of my flower. After I have the acrylic laid down, I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to press it out into that petal shape. I'm going to start, and I'm going to do this almost like it's a compass. So north and south, and then I'll do east and west. As I am doing these little individual petals, I am trying to keep them kind of as flat to the nail as possible. These do have to stay within the whole shape of the nail, so you can't have them get too much height or you're going to end up filing it off. So as you are sculpting them, just keep that in mind that you don't want the flowers to get too tall or each of the petals to get too tall, and that you have a lot more to add to this and you don't want to go too crazy from the beginning. Now we're going to do kind of, northwest and then northeast. And just go around in a little circle, continuing to add all of your flower petals until you have, you're happy with them. If you are just going to do a single layer of flower petals, that is probably a really good choice if you've never done an encapsulated flower, because it will minimize the thickness. And if your flower gets too thick, then you're going to end up pretty much getting rid of all of your flower petals, and it's not going to have that really cool water drop encapsulated flower look. It's going to just kind of look like a what is that? So you want to make sure that if you are just starting out and this is your first ever encapsulated flower, that you maybe don't get too many layers of petals and they don't get too tall. I have, however, done a few of these in my day. So I'm going to do my first layer of petals, and then after I have all 8 of those sculpted in, I'm going to add a secondary layer of petals between them. These ones are going to be significantly smaller, and because of that, I feel like I can do 2 at a time instead of just doing 1 petal at a time. So I'm going to lay down the 2 beads of acrylic, and then I'll go back through and I will press them out with the point of my brush. This is a great exercise to really get your petal sculpting skills honed too. If you haven't sculpted many, this is just a situation where you're going to sculpt a lot of them. On that inner row of feathers, oh my goodness, petals. If you are sculpting a second layer of petals, I would tell you that you don't necessarily have to sculpt as many. So instead of doing 8, maybe you'll find that you can sculpt and space out 6 and that would be plenty. Maybe you will do 8 like I did and just, every other spot and put them in, but it's possible that you just won't seem to have enough space. So if that's the case, don't worry about it and you can sculpt a different number. With a color that is going to be your flower middle color, add a nice little circle in the center, press that out, and then use something pokey like a dotting tool or the back end of a toothpick and press into that center a bunch of different times to give it kind of a pollen-esque covered texture to it. Keep in mind that there's not going to be a whole lot of that texture visible at the end, because once it does get covered up with acrylic, a lot of that will just kind of disappear. So do what you can. After you have that, you're going to actually do the encapsulation, which can feel very scary after you just spent however much time sculpting your flower. You're just going to go through and cover it right up. But that's what we're doing here. Use wet acrylic. You don't want your acrylic to be very dry. That's going to lead to air bubbles and air pockets and a incomplete looking rose or flower. So you want to use wet acrylic and really press it in around those petals. As you are pressing it in around the petals, make sure that you are monitoring your skin so that you don't have any acrylic that flows onto your skin. It is one of those things where it is nearly impossible to do it without touching your skin at all. So because you do know that that is a risk, use this technique with caution, because you're taking your health into your own hands. The more acrylic that touches your skin, the more often, the more frequent, the longer it sits there, the higher the chances of acrylate allergies, which is something that nobody wants to get. So if you have very sensitive skin, maybe this is a design that you just don't want to do, because there is a really high chance of getting the acrylic monomer on your skin. On my thumb, I'm going to do a glitter to nude ombre. So I'm going to apply the glitter from the tip, fading it up, and then I'm going to apply my Cover Pink acrylic from the cuticle down. Once that is on and you have a pretty good color, you're happy with the way that the color blends, and this goes for any encapsulation, any ombre like this, same concept. Once you're happy with how much pink is there, how much of the cover pink, don't use that color anymore, switch to clear acrylic. If you want to build up your apex or your strength and you just keep using your cover pink color and you end up getting too much of it, it's going to ruin the overall effect. So now I'm going to switch to my clear, and I'm going to continue encapsulating my glitter from the midway point of my nail down. Same thing, just make sure that your apex is good, it's strong, and if you need to add any more acrylic but you don't want to add any more pigment, just do your clear. On my index nail and my pinky nail, I have just a Cover Pink overlay, and now I'm going to take some shades of gel polish and I'm going to be adding a little floral arrangement on those nails. I love a Cover Pink nail that has flowers. I think that is probably my favorite floral type thing to ever do with nails. It's just the most elegant, like English garden spring is what it always makes me think of. And it just makes me want to sit down somewhere with a good book and some tea and watch the bumblebees. That is my essence. So after I have my dark green leafy frond going up my nail, I'm going to take a brighter shade of green and I'm going to be adding some highlights going over each one. And then after all of those highlights are in place on my little leafy, then I'm going to take and cure that again, obviously. But now I'm going to add some flowers that kind of go with the flower that is in my 3D flower that's encapsulated. So this is the Madame Glam pudding gel, which I have been using for flowers ever since I got it, because it is the perfect texture to create very airy, watercolory looking flowers. It does such a beautiful job. I'm going to be using the Madame Glam petal brush as well with that to add my little white flower. And then with a color that goes with both the glitter that I was using throughout this set and that middle color in the center of my flower, I'm going to be painting another type of flower, just kind of mixing it up so that they don't all look the same. Changing the shape of the petals, the style of the flower, give it some variety. I'm going to be painting that one, and then I'm going to go back in with my pudding gel and my petal brush, that white, and I'm going to highlight the very edges of those flowers, those flower petals. I'm telling you, the pudding gel with the petal brush is flower perfection. It is like the best combination for things. And then I'm going to take a darker, pinker shade, and I'm going to be adding little lines up from the center of that flower into those petals, filling in the middle with that darker color. And then on just whatever free space is left, I'm going to add another smaller flower. Fill in the nail however much you want or however little you want. If you want it to be completely covered, basically, just keep adding flowers and leaf combinations until you feel like it's full enough. Otherwise, if you want it to be a little bit more on the airy side, you can stop earlier too, or make your elements smaller. I'm going to add a glittery fuchsia color in the center of my white flower, white in the center of my fuchsia flower, and then some little bits of gold inside both the fuchsia flower and the darker magenta colored one. And then I'm going to apply a layer of glossy gel top coat over all of the nails. You really can see how well that encapsulated flower turned out. It is such a fun technique. I do highly recommend giving it a try. It's one of those where the challenge of it on its own is just such a treat. And then when that does turn out, getting to wear it is so much fun because they are so impressive looking. I hope you guys like this design as much as I do. And don't forget to click subscribe to see all my future videos as well.